Let me take my microphone off there and welcome everyone to another episode of Straight Talk with Joe Law. There I am. It took me a second to get it up there. We're on for a special show. Obviously, we have the start of the campaign season, so we are going to be starting to talk with
you happen to get one of my palm cards, it's on there also. But again, I'm looking for the betterment of Meriden. Basically, there's so many things that can be taken care of, but one little word that I think I stole from Macy's is called believe. Because the Republican Party now believes that they can put Meriden in a better financial and better city for people to come into and put people out there that are going to get our economic growth. And the sad part is, and this is the thing that bothers me the most, our seniors in the city of Meriden are destitute. A lot of them I just talked to today, their feelings are that, what do we do with these tax increases? Do we pay for our food? Do we pay for our taxes? Or do we pay for our mortgage? And these are our forefathers of the city of Meriden. Bottom line is, we owe them.
Well, like I said, you're one of my favorite candidates. I've said it over and over again over the weeks. There is no one that is more engaged in this city than you are. And I can't believe that we're still sitting here having a conversation to try to get you elected and not talking about your reelection. But it is what it is. Here we are. Obviously, what do you think about, now you used to be in Area 4, so you used to run at large. Have you found the difference between running at large and inside an area now that you were redistricted into Area 2?
Absolutely. And, the configuration, I could not believe the way they set up Area 2 on the west side of Meriden. It was like, I was dumbfounded. Half of Bradley Avenue is me, the other half is Area 4.
The fact that you even go down that way, I mean, because you're basically the far east side, plus where, because you used to have B Street. Do you still have B Street?
Still B Street, yes.
So you still have B Street. I mean, and then it hooks almost like a big horseshoe around, because then it comes all the way down north side, comes up Kensington, goes down Chamberlain, and now goes up to the west side. It's a very unique and very strange layout that they have. But I also see what they were trying to do. They're trying to make Area 4 more competitive for the Democrats. is basically what it's coming down to. There, because there's a strong Republican base up there on the Johnson Hill,
Yes,
and that area. So I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to push more Republicans to Area 2, where there's more Democrats, lately more Democrats. I still think Joe Carabetta could have won that district last year or 2 years ago. But, it is what it is. For that, we let those shits fall where they did. But so what are the main topics of your campaign? Now, we've talked, obviously, you've been on the show before, and we've talked about a variety of different topics over the years. What's kind of like the main things for you that you're going to be tackling this year?
right now, my agenda is public safety. If I get elected, that would be the very first place I'd want to be as a chairman, a chairperson for public safety. As well, Parks and Recreation and our public works. Some of the things that cost a lot of money but are well worth it. And again, that's something that we have to decide in the booth when it comes time to vote.
Yeah, so for those of you who just joined on and might have missed the last couple seconds, I think you guys said you guys had some cutouts. We're sitting here with Dan Zabrowski. He is the Republican candidate for City Council for Area 2. So we welcome him, as always. He's always a great person to have on. Like I said, no one more engaged in this city than he is. But talking about public safety, obviously public safety is one of the most important issues going on right now. We have to me, I would say it's a city in crisis right now. And when it comes to public safety, just had the article. We were just discussing it before we went on the show. The issues that they're having at the community towers. There's obviously an article on it in the paper. I believe it was this week, maybe last week, about literally out in the open drug deals going on. Fights going on over there. There's been over 200 calls for service since the beginning of this year. That's almost probably more than one a day at the community towers. So when we talk about public safety, it usually ties in with a bunch of other things. Affordable housing, again, one of the subjects that nobody wants to talk about. How affordable housing and low-income housing directly affects education and social services resources and public safety. And again, but the community tower is just one thing. And then we have obviously a shooting and carjacking right around the corner from the towers this week. We have the ATVs just running wild on the streets here in Meriden. Do you see an end in sight? Because I'll give credit to Chief Rosado. He's trying his best to get this stuff taken care of. But again, to me, what Democrats have done is they haven't straight out said, go do whatever the hell you want to do. But there are policies that have pretty much, told everyone, you're not going to be reprimanded for what you do. So just, it's like a free-for-all. How do we stop it?
Basically, one of the most important things, and people out there got to remember, we hired a chief that has impeccable credentials. This man, believe me when I tell you, open door policy, call him almost any time, sets up all kinds of programs. And for us not to push even more so public safety, it's got to be the dumbest thing going. I kind of I didn't laugh, but I said, how stupid is this? They had a guard at the towers. They fired him. They got rid of him.
Yes.
Who's doing it right now? David Sunshine. And how is he patrolling that area? He's looking at cameras.
Yeah, it's funny because Dolores just asked that, who's doing security there? And again, the MHA, the Meriden Housing Authority, they'll sit there and say security is our number one issue, but they're obviously not. obviously they don't really care. They say one thing, do another. In typical political organization, they try to say they're not political. The Meriden Housing Authority, we don't even have enough time to get into that today. But listen, something needs to be done. But again, it's not just the towers. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. These kids running wild. You have 14, 15-year-olds, stealing cars, taking police on joyrides. Do you see an end in sight? And if so, how do you see yourself fitting into that spot that says, you know what, I'm going to be here to do what I can to help you guys out? What needs to be done?
What needs to be done is we start talking to Michael Quinn, all our state representatives. They are the nucleus to get the state.
They don't care.
And they don't, it's sad.
But again, so let's just already know that they don't give a crap. Obviously, the police accountability bill. And here's the thing. If anyone remembers, a couple months ago, I spoke with Michael Quinn, and he had the article in the paper that, we can't go into special session because there's been no public hearings or anything like this. But do you know what's going on right now? If anyone doesn't know, that the state legislators in special session right now just to hire a new Supreme Court justice.
Correct.
And you're trying to tell me you could sit there and go into special session for a Supreme Court justice, but you can't go into special session for the protection of the people that you represent? It absolutely mind-boggling to me. But again, because they don't want to fix this problem. We look at what happened. Look at what happened in Hartford, where we lost a great police officer because these kids, again, know that if a cop pulls them over, they don't need to stay there. In fact, I think we had that in, South Windsor just last night, where a South Windsor officer was hit by a car that was fleeing from a state trooper just a couple miles away. So let's just already know that our state reps are absolutely useless. Hartford is absolutely useless. What do we do here in Meriden? Do we take the extreme measures like Chief Rosado wants to do?
Here's the thing I want to say. The chief introduced the ATV resolution. Now, from here, we can go further. We can make ordinance for our city. If no other city wants to take the bull by the horns, we will. Bottom line is, and as I said, I give praise to the chief for introducing that ATV. And again, there's more things that can be done in the city of Meriden. And I think with his ingenuity that he pushes himself forward, we got a chance to turn the city around.
Well, I especially absolutely love his idea, and I think we talked about it last week, of literally taking all these dirt bikes and ATVs that were confiscated and literally destroying them live on social media. To me, that is like the most brilliant idea. I absolutely love that. And I think you had a good thing. People should make donations to go and watch it.
I would pay to see this. I know there's a lot of other people. And the video that I sent the chief was from New York, where Dozer went over like 172 vehicles back and forth. And people, they'd be ecstatic because they don't need this type of vigilantes out in the street.
Yeah, listen, I mean, again, it's like, when will enough be enough? Will it really be enough when the public starts taking measures into their own hands?
That's one.
And you never want to see that.
That's one of the things I don't know if you remember way back when I was growing up a kid, there was vigilantes in Meriden.
Really?
They took over. Yeah. They straightened out a few neighborhoods.
Again, and maybe this is just like the perfect segue. Again, if anyone's just joining us, we're talking with Dan Zabrowski. He's a Republican city council candidate for Area 2. Next week, we will have his opponent, Joe Scarmuzzo. He will be joining us next week. So, it's great that we're going to get both sides here. And I want to know what his plans are for it. Again, he's a newcomer, so I don't know much about him. I don't know if you do or not. But, he had his editorial in the paper last week. And I got to say, though, the one thing that was really missing out of here was anything really about public safety. And I don't know where he lives. And again, we'll have these conversations with him next week. But again, it's not even anywhere in there. And again, this goes for most Democrats. I haven't seen a Democrat yet talk about public safety. And I think they do that because they really have no leg to stand on.
Look at basically last year, Michael Cardona, 6 meetings canceled. This year, 4 meetings canceled. If there's nothing that should be on any, it doesn't have to be an agenda. I know the chief is receptive. I think it'd be a better idea, the fact that they changed that meeting from 5:30 to 6:30, gives people in the public a chance to go to the meetings and speak what they think that possibly could help.
I still think they need to be having quarterly public safety meetings all over the city.
Quarterly, yes, I would say, but look at the city manager. He was supposed to be at the neighborhood rehabilitation meeting quarterly. He has yet to show up for one.
Listen, and again, since 2001, and listen, I've been on that board, and I've never seen a city councilor come through there. But I read the article and they're going to put Ray Arlette on there, which again, which is now not going to happen because if I heard correctly, Sonia Jill has pulled that, correct? So that's not even going to happen.
Correct. That is not on the agenda for Monday. And it just bothered me to the fact, here's a counselor that's going to do it on his own. He's not asking for money, whereas Jelks gets paid for being on the Parks, Public Works.
Well, they all get paid for being chair, vice chair. Right. They get a stipend onto that. So, yeah, but if you got into politics and you got into the council and all this kind of stuff for money, then you know what? I really don't want you there. Like, people, City Hall yells at me all the time. Because as part of the assessment appeals, I'm supposed to be paid $1,000. I don't ever file the paperwork for it because to me, it's not about the money. I don't want the money. So the city needs it more than I do, apparently, because they keep raising our taxes every year. I don't do it to sit there and get a paycheck from them or to sit there and take their money. So it's just, if people really got into politics for that, then that's sad because it should be just to help out your community and to be able to dedicate that kind of time to the city and to the residents. And I think that's what it comes down to. But I was on the board, rehabilitation board with Rick and Heidi, and at the time Chris Hansen and myself, and that's when we had Peter Miller there, who was running the show. He's now since retired, so he's not there, and obviously, I don't think anyone's really taken his place. Listen, they've never taken them seriously, and I used to talk about it all the time while on the board, and I used to go to every city council meeting, and I used to sit there and say, hey, this is the thing that need to be done. And which is why I'm glad some candidates their platform has been going after these, and most of them are absentee landlords. Correct. And since the last 2-3 years, that's gotten even worse. That number of absentee landlords has skyrocketed because with COVID and everything else, where tenants didn't have to pay their bills. A lot of these people lost their foreclosure, their houses and multifamily houses to foreclosure. And these capital groups came in and bought them all up. And that's why, again, you start seeing rents where they are. But I've been on that board for a long time. We've been complaining about it for a long time. And the city council has never done anything. Now, that being said, hold on. I'm sorry, I keep keeping the camera on because I want you guys to see Dan. But I will bring back to myself because I'll talk for a second. But, while the absentee landlords is a huge problem, we used to, every first Friday of every month, Peter Miller and the city manager, at the time was Guy Scaife, they used to go for a code walk, And if anyone doesn't know what a code walk is, excuse me, every department head, and if you're on the board, you could go as well. Every department head, you would pick a neighborhood and you would walk it. And you would document all the code violations. And it would be up to those department heads to then take care of those code violations. And I think back then, we had a lot more engagement there, where now, apparently, they don't even have code walks anymore. They have nothing.
They've had a few of them. But who's the biggest advocate of the code walks? Our chief of police.
Well, it just makes sense because, again, when you let things go blighted, now it decreases the value of your neighborhood. And as you decrease the neighborhood value, it's been, again, every study that you find shows you that as things start to deteriorate, a bad element comes along with it. And when you allow this stuff to happen over decades, yeah, you're going to get more crime in the neighborhood and people start losing, appreciation for what they have. And you start seeing, again, buildings start falling apart that aren't being fixed. And it's kind of a domino effect. So what is your game plan for blighted neighborhoods and to getting that turned back around? Because you'll hear from the city hall that we just don't have the manpower to do so. So what is the solution for it?
Basically, I think one of the best things is to indoctrinate people. I don't know if you've been around, but canvassing out there, I see more and more mattresses out in the street. You see bureaus out in the street. People just arbitrarily throw them out there and figure, well, this is the city's responsibility. But again, looking at the blighted areas, they have every avenue to put, their houses back into order. But again, as Joe alluded to, they're out-of-town landlords. They're out-of-state landlords. So how do we really get into them? Well, here, as I said, with code violation, start hitting them in the pocket.
Yeah, and you talked about mattresses on the sidewalks and stuff like that. I just saw the thing go up for bulk pickup. Why are they charging residents $40 for bulk pickup? And what is it, like 5 or 8 items or less?
Yes. Yep.
And WTF, what are we talking about here? It's like the amount of money we pay in taxes. You don't think that the public works could just do neighborhoods at a time? And anyone who wants to put your stuff out there like the old days? I just don't get this. It's $40 now, and it's only like 5 to 8 items.
Yes, correct. And the sad part is our surrounding communities, especially like Cheshire, they got this whole month, last September and into this month, they're going to be collecting it because you pay taxes, so we're going to take care of it for you.
Yeah, listen, I drove through Cheshire, a couple weeks ago, and everybody just had it out there on the sidewalk there.
Yes.
And the city just comes up and grabs it. I just don't see how that's an issue, and with the amount of taxes we pay in this city, especially in the inner city. Because remember, we pay like 2 mils more than the outer district because of garbage and pickup and stuff. It's like, why isn't this stuff just jack up everybody, just put it all to 47 and call it a day and just sit there and pick everyone's garbage up?
Very simple, right?
I just don't get it. Of course, we're getting less and less for our money. You're absolutely right out there. But again, these people aren't held accountable for it. And I think that's the problem. And again, just waking people up to the fact that, we are getting less and less for our money, but most people just don't feel like, and how do you reach that person that just feels disengaged, that just feels defeated, that, nothing's ever going to change. It just is the way it is.
And that was one of the biggest problems during Joe Martin's era. Oh, blighted, tear it down. Blighted, tear it down. Can we not? And there's a word out there. It's called retrofit. Can we retrofit a lot of these houses that are maybe in a little bit deplorable condition? Absolutely. But again, our economic development has to get in there and say, hey, we have an avenue to help you. You got a government, we can get you a loan or we can get you a grant.
Yeah. So, but see, here's the issue, though, and I saw that in one of I think it was the RJ article, because there is money out there that if you live in the house, though, but you have to own it and live in it.
Correct.
And if you need a new furnace, then yes, the city will loan you the money for it, but you have to meet the certain financial criteria for that. And then after 5 years, if you're still living in the house, then it's gone.
Correct.
So, and that's always been there. The problem is, again, we've seen such an uptick in absentee landlords because like I said, a lot of these houses are being bought up by VCs, by venture capital groups, as just a way to make some more money. They see that people are desperate in a time, in a crisis, and whether it's here in the city of Meriden, whether the state, whether it's Maui, wherever there's devastation and people can't afford things, these big corporations and VC groups are coming in and just buying all this property up. And again, what's the first thing they're doing? They're jacking up the rents. That's a huge problem we have in the city of Meriden. Now, it's not something that the fair rent group is going to be able to take care of. Again, I don't think it's the government's responsibility to sit there and tell homeowners what they could charge for rent. That's none of the government's business. I think the free market will take care of that. If it's too high, people aren't going to apply for it. The problem is the city of Meriden loves the low-income housing. They don't mind the Section 8 coming in where it's a guaranteed paycheck for these groups.
Yes.
And they know it. So, again, and then they're going to bitch and complain when we have Colony Street. What do we do with Colony Street? It's empty. And we've been promised for over 8 years now.
That's a gentleman said he was going to take those buildings, and they made it in the TOD district that the lower portion of the building is going to be commercial. They cannot put apartments in there, and nothing's materialized. But going back to what you're talking about, blighted areas, I've said this for like 5 years, and I'll say it again. We have lots in the city of Meriden. You're a carpenter. Build us a house. You sell that house, that's your profit. We got something back on the tax rolls because we have two coming up. One's going to be on Lewis Avenue. The gentleman's going to buy the property across from Mount Carmel School, and another one up on Maple Street. She has a lot next door, but she wants to buy another lot so she can put a duplex there. Amen. More on the tax rolls.
Listen, I'm all for increasing the tax rolls. I think it's always good that we do that. But again, I just don't see how the way the city is portraying itself, because I think perception is the reality. And right now, I think someone made a good point on some of the comments that if it looks like garbage, it's going to be treated like garbage. So, and I think that's what's happening in our neighborhoods, and I think that's why we have a lot of issues we have. And at the same time, again, if City Hall is basically turning around and saying that we don't have the resources to take care of it, what do you think that's saying to these landlords? Again, who are absentee, don't really care. They're from New York, New Jersey, wherever they're from. They don't care. If they listen, the city's excuse me. City's strapped for cash. They don't have anyone to come in after us. We could be a slumlord.
And one of the things that kind of like, if you could look at this situation when we had that chicken place on State Street, they went out of business. Why? Biggest reason why, the demographics don't support it. You got people with disposable income, yes, they would support it. But in that area, they don't have the money to.
Listen, we've had this debate for more than 8 years. I've talked about this since 2014, 2013. That you can't rehabilitate an area on low income housing. You just can't do it. It's just not fiscally responsible. And it's not. These people do not have disposable income. Therefore, they're not. No business going to come in there, knowing that there's no one there to support them. Correct. And no one that can support them. So, which is why, again, it's not rocket science why Colony Street is totally is empty, and why these things aren't going to be moving forward. There's just nobody there, and I think the more that people like Sonia Jelks and Cortez want to push more and more and more affordable housing, Section 8, it's only going to get worse, and they're trying to spread it across the city, and it's going to have devastating implications to it if it happens.
Correct. And one of the other things that I looked at, and again, I feel for people that do not have the income, but there are avenues out there that can help them. But the sad part is the more influx of more apartments like East Main Street, Encore on Park, Parkway over there.
Yeah.
And these places are one of the biggest impacts on our water and sewer department.
Yeah, listen, I mean, I don't think anyone would say they don't want to help out people, but I think the city of Meriden, and again, and people always like coming after me about it because they say I attack the poor. Listen, I grew up poor, so I've been poor, I've been well off, I've been poor again, I've been well off, I've been poor again, and now I'm well off. But again, it's not about that. It's about how much more did the taxpayers of the city of Meriden need to put up? Because, when we talked about this 4 years ago, we were at 16% affordable housing in the city of Meriden. Now we're up over 18%.
Correct.
It's like the state minimum and really the average is around 10 to 12. I mean, you can't say we were not doing our fair share. And this is where people like me and Sonia Jelks will really have that debate. It's like, which I wish he would debate. Oh my God, that'd be like the greatest thing. But when is enough? When are the people, the taxpayers of the city of Meriden going to say, you know what? No, we've done our fair share and we're not going to do it anymore.
Here's your chance.
Right.
The Republicans are looking for something to put you in the betterment and keep our people in the city of Meriden.
I'll give Robbie Kaczynski one thing to say he did decent is that, again, and most people criticize him for, especially Sonia Jelks, when he put that letter out.
Yes.
To the planning commission, said, "Listen, we can't do this anymore. The schools cannot handle it." And he's absolutely right. They can't. And the deputy chief of police, a couple of years ago, got put a cough shit for turning around and saying, "No, with low income housing comes more crime." And Democrats basically lost their minds.
And they thought that basically that, it's just going to be, there's going to be a little white cloud that's going to come over and clear everything up in Meriden. No, it takes a lot. And again, as I might put the emphasis on, why am I running? Because I want to see Meriden. I've been in here all my life, except for the 4 years that I was in the service. Saw something that I was dumbfounded when I came back from the service after 4 years. Seeing downtown completely wiped out into a mall and knowing that this is going to be a deterioration of downtown Meriden, which right now it is. And the other sad part is when we're taking, and I'm on the ZBA, and the gentleman kind of said, well, are you prejudiced towards Indian people? I said, excuse me. I said, I don't think so. You want to put an apartment in the old Milner's Tavern, whereas a gentleman up on Broad Street, 5 years ago, he bought that property up there. He wanted to put apartments on there. The ZBA turned him down. And I says, you've only had the building for 6 months.
Right.
So how do you justify something like that? But that's one of our biggest impacts as far as the city is concerned when you take commercial and turn it into residential.
Yeah. So listen, so I think at the end of the day, blight directly affects public safety. And I think, which is why I think it's extremely important that it gets tackled and it gets tackled immediately. And how the city could turn around and say that they don't have the personnel to do it is beyond me. Because that just sets, again, even if that is true, you definitely, some things are just better left unsaid. Because again, it leads into people just turn around saying, yeah, we're just not going to do anything because they can't come after us anyways. They don't have the people. And I think it's it's unfortunate that this is where the city's at. But again, it also comes back to where are we prioritizing our money? And if we want to see our city, move forward in a positive way, don't you think that channeling more of that money towards your housing inspectors and stuff like that is a better way of fixing the problem? And like you said before, hit them in the pocketbook. Hit them in the pocketbook. If you get these housing inspectors to start coming up and you start doing these code walks again, start fighting them and start collecting money on it.
Absolutely.
It should pay for itself because it's that bad. But yeah, it's very interesting. And and then we talk about, obviously, with the blight issue. Obviously, we to me, it's important. It kind of correlates in with it. Is we still have flooding, and I always enjoy when some of my favorite pals in the city, join the conversation on the flooding, and that of course is my good friend Mike Rohde, who, to me, again, and I'll sit there and I'll continue to say it, is probably the one person in this city over the decades that has created the most divisive between Republicans and Democrats, because I think he's just an angry guy when it comes to Republicans. I don't care what he says about Phil Ashton. I think he's very partisan. I think he absolutely hates Republicans, which is fine. But I think he has single-handedly done more harm to this city with his time as city council and as mayor than anybody else. I don't care what they say. But he decided to poke his head out, and I always like to play whack-a-mole with him when he pops his head out. And we were talking about Pratt Street, and obviously Pratt Street flooded out. Now it abuts against the Green. You would think that if one street out of all the streets would not flood, it would be Pratt Street. And he continues, and he's not the only one. A lot of Democrats in the city over the years have told me the same thing. Well, it's if it floods out, it's only for a couple hours, not for a couple days. But that train of thinking is so flawed. It's like once the water's in their basement, it might recede on the streets. That water's still there in their basement. Amen. That water is still there in their business. Oh my God, my coughing today is ridiculous. And for Rohde to come out and say, now I want to make sure I quote my good man, because I do like quoting Mike Rohde. And of course, everything for Mike Rohde is a 25-year storm, 50-year storm, 100-year storm. So you're trying to tell me all the tens of millions of dollars we spent on the Green, we didn't think that maybe we should pipe out and put new drainage on Pratt Street to drain into the Green? Apparently that never came into consideration, because he sits there and says, well, we shouldn't have to worry about that because, it's only this street. It's nowhere, it's not other places. So it's a nuisance to him, as he would put it. He put it as, I want to make sure I quote him directly. I wish I was reading through all the other comments that he had on there. It's a nuisance and not a catastrophic. So to me, it just blows my mind. He said, and an hour later, all the street flooding had dissipated thanks to the Green. Okay, but if Pratt Street has nothing to do with the Green, and then and before you turn around and told us that the storm drains just overflowed, where is that water going? If it's not going into the Green, which it should, because it abuts up against it, would just make logical sense. One, where is that money going? Where is that water going? If it goes into the drains, where's it going?
Absolutely. And one of the things that bothers me most about Pratt Street, and I have no engineering degree, but I've got common sense. I belong to an organization. We put in silt traps before our pond. So this way, all the silt that comes down, it gets retained there. We got a nice water flow. So what did we do in the city of Meriden? Carroll Park, we could have put 2 traps there. What do we have right now? Baldwin's Pond, silted in 90% right now. All kinds of lily pads out there. Coming down Westfield Road, going into the Carabetta property years ago that was called Pratt's Pond. They had a dam there. So this held back water. But ever since everything's been changed, the whole configuration, this is why we're getting more and more water. And like you alluded to the fact that why can't we divert that water that comes down there back into the green?
Yeah, it just, again, it doesn't make any sense to me. And, again, once the water's there, it's there. And whether, like I said, whether it recedes in an hour or in a day or 3 days, it doesn't make a difference. It's already there. Damage is done. So the fact that this stuff wasn't considered before, or were you just basically saying, you know what, screw Pratt Street? Maybe that was the train of thought. It's like, well, screw Pratt Street. Don't worry about it. But again, right now, if you look at, and I'll throw it up there. This is a picture of Pratt Street. And that liquor store was filled with water. That's a business. He now had to not only clean that out, but then he has to turn around and fix everything that's damaged.
I think Prentice had the same problem too.
Yeah, well, he's right next door to him.
Yeah, and
so it's like, and again, he has a ton of paper in his place to Prentice printing.
Yes.
It's like, what are we talking about here? This should never happen, especially butting up against the green. And if it wasn't put into design, maybe we should have not spent $8.1 million on that friggin' stupid bridge. But again, maybe paid for some more friggin' drainage. There should be so much drainage on Pratt Street. We should never, ever, ever see a drop of water there. But again, our city, again, this is what the problem I have with our city leaders is that they don't even think long term. It's like short term is how am I going to get to my next reelection? And even for these projects that are supposed to take they're supposed to be looking long term. I mean, I look at this picture, and it's just mind boggling to me that this still happens. I mean, before it was, we're not done downstream yet, so that's not an issue. But basically, Rhodey turned around and told us that it's not even connected to it.
But the good part about is we have a good public works director, John Lawler. John, he had people down there cleaning those drains out and everything, and it's telling you that the impact starts, that water that comes down from Black Pond, comes down East Main Street, Spoon Shop, they call it the Spoon Shop Brook over there, and then it goes into B Street, and then it goes into Baldwin's Pond, and here you go. Tons of water.
So I haven't seen too much. I know he's a new public works director from last time. But again, I hope they are being proactive when knowing that these storms are coming, that they are directing those resources to making sure that those things are cleared.
If you go down to the airport, you'll see something that I never saw before. He is actually going out cleaning all the catch basins throughout the whole city. When he first got on and he came to the council meeting, I says, I want to give kudos to our public works director. I've never seen a street sweeper on my street before the Daffodil Festival. And he takes a lot of initiative, he takes a lot of time, and he will answer your questions. This is a gentleman.
Well, I'm glad to see that we have somebody in the city of Meriden as a department head taking the bull by the horns. But again, I'm hoping, and there's not much garbage down there other than the nip bottles that litter the street in the little quad there from that liquor store. But there's not much. I don't know what is clogging it up. There's no trees really there. So what is clogging these drains up that's preventing it from draining out?
I would say it's got to be something to do with the pipes down below. I don't know if they've ever replaced them. Are they antiquated or what?
With the millions of dollars we spent on Pratt Street.
Yes.
And on the green. Yep. Pratt Street, you think would be the one place you never see water. And not to mention that we have our fire department that's right there. The fire headquarters is right there. And it just absolutely blows my mind about that these people are just delusional, that, it's no big deal. We don't care. And Rhodey basically said he really just didn't care that there was a mess down there and that it was a nuisance. It's only a nuisance. So, Mr. Liquor Store there, that was just a nuisance. Don't worry about it. That's the train of thought that politicians in the city have, is that you're just a nuisance. Me complaining about something is just a nuisance. Don't worry about it. We don't worry about that. And again, and I think this is one of the reasons why this city has the issues that it does. One, because the city leadership don't care what you have to say. And you are it's the same people that are coming at them with the same things. And it's like, they don't care because they know they're going to get reelected without even saying a word. Have you heard from any of the Democrats this year?
I have heard nothing. The only thing, again, that I heard was the fact that Chad Cardillo was running because Michael Cardone's dropping out. And you have Mike Rhodey coming back again. And if again, I look at politics itself. 2 terms as a congressman, 2 terms as a state senator, 2 terms as a local official.
I listen. I'm all for term limits. Maybe not that short because you really can't get the things you want to get done that quickly. Mine has always been for Congress. 5 terms as a congressman, 2 terms as a senator. That's because that's 10 years plus 12 years. And you should be nowhere near Washington again. But again, the problem with, I don't want to get into that kind of stuff because, but again, same thing with the city of Meriden. It all comes down to follow the money. That's what it basically comes down to. And again, you got to take money out of politics. That is the most important thing. If you really want to fix the system, whether it's local elections or state or federal, you got to get the money out of politics.
And again, just a quote from my competitor. He stated in here, while I am all for fiscal responsibility, the ugly truth is eliminating $100,000 from the city budget saves the average homeowner roughly $3 a year to their taxes. Well, $100,000 here, $100,000 there, $100,000 there. Maybe we can save them $100.
It's funny because I read his op-ed and I highlighted the same thing that you did because, listen, we always hear it every single year from Democrats is that, well, it's only 2, and Rhodey loves it. Rhodey absolutely loves saying this, where it's only $3. Oh, it's only $4. Yeah, but you do that times 100 times, and that's $400. I was like, what are you talking about? There are people that are on fixed income. Inflation is absolutely destroying America.
Amen to that, too.
I mean, you have a reval that just came out 2 years ago, or what? Yeah, 2 years ago, that jacked everybody's freaking home values up, totally overinflated. And again, these people could hardly sit there and pay their mortgages now. Even then, now it's 10 times worse. To me, it doesn't make any sense. But again, obviously, I read that quote. It's something I'm going to ask Joe about next week when he's here. Because I'm really interested in that. Because if that is a train of thought that he has now, and again, and I'm going to give a little leeway to him. And I think me and you talked about it. I'm going to give him a little leeway because he's new to the game. And I'm very, very interested in hearing his point of views on topics that are going on in the city from someone who, again, have you ever seen him at a city council meeting?
Never.
I've never heard of him other than his son played football for Maloney, he's a tremendous kicker. That's about the most I know of him, other than what I've read. That's why I'm really excited that he's coming in next week, so that we could dive into this and where are you coming from? Where are you coming from? And I give him credit for coming on. First of all, not many good Democrats do. I think the last Democrat we had on was Cardona, and the mayor. And the mayor I consider to be a Democrat. So whether it's an opportunist Democrat or not, he's still a Democrat in my eyes, because he supports everybody. He supports every Democrat there is. So, I'm interested to see what his point of view is as a newcomer and as someone who apparently doesn't know much about what's going on. So I'm really interested in seeing why he's running. But I mean, what scares me is that he's being brainwashed into what the crazies believe. Someone like a Fontanella, who I always thought was a pretty reasonable guy, who somehow has turned in, again, Fontanella was a Republican at one time.
Yes, correct.
How he's turned into what he has become is just mind-blowing to me. Because when he started, 5 years, 6 years, almost 6 years ago now, he was a totally different kind of person, one who you thought had the common sense and, used to sit there and put some pretty good questions out there. Now I think they're just deathly afraid of Sonia Jelks.
There's no doubt in my mind, because he interjected on the PUC Parks and Public Works. And he said to Sonia Jelks, why don't after each presentation the public be able to get a chance to ask a question of the directors, which I had many of them. And what happens, she puts it at the end. So the other two that gave their reports and everything else, they left. So we couldn't answer a question.
Listen, Sonia Jelks, the less community involvement, the better for her. Listen, she has her core group of the people she needs. Her social justice warriors, they're full lockstep. They're never going to stray out of line. She don't want to hear, and she doesn't want anyone else to hear, any alternative views other than her own and the people that she brings in. That's just a fact. But the thing is, she has so many other people that are on board with that. I mean, you look at LaRue Graham, who cries now about his son walking down the streets. Like, who the frig are you kidding? Who are you friggin' kidding? Yep. You've been a councilman for how many years? Now all of a sudden, now you're deathly afraid of your son walking outside? Come on. Don't be an ass. Whether you have people like friggin' Mike Cardona, who again, I thought was reasonable at one point, who just totally fell off the friggin' earth with this whole racism is a public health crisis, and then came on here trying to defend it with a Michigan report that had to literally take 6 or 7 different categories, pull them into one so they could come up with that kind of statistic that the leading cause of black men in America is the police department. It's like, what are you talking about? But again, so these are where these people have gone to. And again, I'm hoping new people coming in that are looking to get into politics are not going down that same road. Because and I never thought I'd say it, I kind of respect more the Bernie Sanders Democrats, socialists, than I do the Sonia Jelks social justice warriors. I mean, I'll take a socialist any day.
And one of the things that I just want to inject to the public and let them know, last year she canceled 9 meetings of the Parks, Public Works, and the PUC.
Oh, they still got paid.
9 of them. 3 of them are department heads that should be giving their reports. They were never given. I went to a council meeting. I said to the city manager, you oversee this. I think she should be writing a check back for all 9 meetings for $1,078 and give it back to the city because she got a freebie.
Listen, the fact that the city manager, first of all, is compromised. The city manager is now compromised. There's no getting around that. He's just lucky that he's still collecting a paycheck. Exactly, and the only one he has to thank for that is Sonia Jelks. Sonia Jelks basically said, no, we're not doing anything to him. it is what it is. Don't worry about it.
Well, they did build one big thing. You can't drive a city vehicle for 2 years.
Wow.
But he never had one.
Wow, right, which he doesn't do now. So again, it's just a joke, and these are people that are supposed to be representing us. And well, first of all, he doesn't represent us. The city manager is not elected by the people. Now, what's your stance on charter reform?
I'm sorry?
Charter reform.
Charter reform would be the best thing that could hit this city.
Now, I've been looking at some regulations from the state. Now, the state says we should be looking at our charter every 10 years. And that's actually a state guideline. I've been here for, since 2007. I don't think it's ever come up. I don't think it's ever been looked at. Would you be pushing for a charter to be opening it up?
I am adamant about this because only but one thing. These people who vote have a voice. And you as a counselor, if you don't listen to their voice and they have something to say, let's put it in an amendment and let the voters decide, not this, and I called it one time a kangaroo court because of the fact they just do it their way. And people who are voters in the city, Meriden, they should have the final say.
Well, I think we should do it like Berlin does, is that, anything over a certain amount of dollars goes to the public. I think a lot of this stuff would be knocked right down. I think you wouldn't have gotten the extra money for the library. I think people would have been a little bit more engaged in it, which, again, the library is now flooding.
I saw the sandbags out there.
It's like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
$17.1 million, and now it's flooding already. It's like, and then Rhodey jumps on and is like, well, one of the drainage wasn't working. What do you mean one of the drainage isn't working? How does it not work? Was it clogged? He didn't say that. And when I went there, and again, I talked about it last week, I walked in, and I think this is one of the kind of things that I do love about being the pain in the ass that I am, is that when I walk into a government building, especially, I don't have to ask things. Like I saw Tom Walsh walking around with one of the engineers, and he immediately started telling me, no. It's flooding here, but it has nothing to do with the construction. Apparently it did, because obviously this drainage was done during the construction. That apparently doesn't work.
You took down a house. That was water retention. You got the water coming off the parking lot. But look on the bottom of the stairs, and you'll see a pipe that's 6 inches in circumference to take residual water away.
It's just an absolute joke. But again, I love it and as soon as I walked in, now again, the thing is, the thing that was rich about it was I was there. I wasn't there for the flooding. I had no idea about it. But as soon as I walked in and saw him and he saw me, he immediately went into defensive mode. As if I was there for that. So I do like that, the fact that, I got free information from someone who would never give me information.
Exactly.
Which I thought was rich. But, it's just crazy on what's going on around here and the amount of money that the taxpayers spend. And now we have to have Public Works come in there and do it all over again and figure out what's going on with that pipe. And they have to rip that up and make a bigger one there. Did we have landscaping architects that designed this to make sure that
you would have thought, yes,
the $17.1 million investment we just did was not going to flood with water? I know this city loves floods, and maybe they think that the people are just too stupid to realize that, at some point you got to call bullshit, and it's like these people are all full of it. It just blows my mind, the amount of money we spend on things that just don't work.
Once again, our health department got flooded again.
Yeah, well, the health department's going to flood. And in fact, that whole building needs to go. But at least we know that.
But the sad part is, have they done anything to take care of that piece of property up on Liberty Street where that sinkhole is now getting bigger?
Is it getting bigger?
Yes.
Okay, but it's 8 o'clock, so I wanted to get into one more topic with you because, it's something that irritates the crap out of me. We were talking about the rescue funds.
Yes.
And now we have all these groups, and we talked about it, they approved these projects, and then they wouldn't hand out the money for them. And they made all these organizations and businesses jump through hoops. And we were talking about how all these projects were now being overrun with cost. Their costs were being overrun because of the wait. And now, come to find out, they're all coming back to the city for more money to pay for those. I mean, so again, it's just more for the incompetence of the city. The taxpayers now have to give up more of that rescue fund money that could have went to street paving and other things. These groups are coming back for more money to offset those overcosts.
And what bothers me about that is I attended the last meeting. Now, here's the YMCA. They gave them a little over $600,000. There's almost a $200,000 cost overrun. I wasn't too happy when the mayor said, well, let me put a motion on the floor to accept that $200,000 and give it to them. But we got a cost overrun on the police department. Now, this is men and women's locker rooms. CIP, that's where it's going to go after this. We can't get the money.
Yep.
American Legion, another one. They went cost overrun. But this is the epitome of stupidity in the city of Meriden, our historical society.
I don't even think it's stupidity. I think it's a gross incompetence.
Yeah, more like
because,
that.
I mean, the committee hired a third-party auditor that their sole job is to look after where those organizations that got the money that got approved. So why the city finance department has interjected themselves into this process is mind-boggling to me.
And it's sad because I give you a case in point. I call it this hysterical society because it was hysterical. They bought that building downtown on West Main Street. They came in with asking for $89,000 to shore up a wall. Now, before you bought that building, would you have had an inspector in there checking that out?
Listen, taxpayers are going to take care of it. Didn't matter.
And the sad part is they sold the building in South Meriden for $300,000.
Where'd that money go?
Yeah. And what bothers me is there's two that I'm hell-bent on. Paul's Market, over 40 years in business up on North Wall Street. They put in for it, have not got any money. Jade Garden on West Main Street. They put in, I think, only $40,000. They haven't got their money.
No.
And what are we doing? I mean, we're not helping the other people, but
right.
We're going to give more money to the YMCA?
And first of all, listen, the fact that Kevin even brought that up, he shouldn't be going anywhere near a YMCA project. Have been having worked there before and having all these connections again. And again, to me, I don't want to dig down this rabbit hole tonight with the whole circle of corruption in this city. But it all starts again, to me, it all starts at the top with all these organizations, whether it's the YMCA, whether it's the Board of Ed, whether it's the MHA, all these organizations, they're all in it together. They're all protecting one another. They all funnel money to each other. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me. And again, at the end of the day, the only person that gets screwed in the end is the taxpayer. The taxpayer picks up all of these bills. It's just craziness to me. But again, if you keep on bringing in more and more affordable housing where they're not paying into the system, they're not paying the taxes, again, they're going to vote for the people that are going to keep giving them their free crap.
And one thing I couldn't understand, even when they came in with the $626,000, you're tied up with Meriden, you're tied up with Berlin, and you're tied up with New Britain. And the CEO makes over $600,000 a year. Come on.
Yeah, go take a pay cut and then come back and talk to me.
Yeah, amen to that.
Come talk to me.
Yes.
That'd be the first thing I say. You make it $600,000 to run the YMCA? No. Come back and talk to me when you make $300,000. A more reasonable. You make more than the President of the United States. No.
And they've yet to explain how many people are left on that the waiting list that's there. I know of 2, but they said there's only 5 or 8, but that wouldn't encompass the 1.5 million that we have in the back.
Yeah, well, listen, that 1.5 million is gone. If all these organizations have to come back for more money, that money's gone.
Absolutely.
And of course, that committee, I think, is so anxious to just get that money gone and just go about their day. It's just a joke.
I say you're absolutely right.
It's an absolute joke, and that's coming out of counselors' mouths. Kara Bennett said that. I just can't wait for this whole thing to be done. So actually, so I don't have to do these meetings anymore. Then don't freaking do it. Then get off of the committee.
Right.
But again, that's just another reason why I don't support individuals like that. It's because again, they could care less about the bill. They just want the position. They want to be called Mr. Counselor, and it's pathetic to me.
And they held the infrastructure to only half of the money. I said 3/4 of that money should have gone to infrastructure, because now with the cost overrun, where's it going to go into? CIP. And guess who's going to pay for it?
Taxpayers get that one.
Yep.
Plus the interest, because it all goes to the bonding. So
or bonding, correct.
So we pay for a street that's going to last about 20 years, but we're going to pay 30 years in interest on it. Makes sense, right? But again, that's the way the city thinks. All right, so we're a little over 8 o'clock. So again, Dan Zabrowski running for Area 2 for City Council here in the great city of Meriden. He is the Republican. I'm going to give you the last couple of minutes to wrap up whatever you wish to say.
Okay, like I said, I do believe that the Republican Party, not because they're just Republicans, it's just the fact that they are going to get something done. Everybody says, oh, you're negative about this. Why not be negative? I mean, something you're just putting an emphasis on people monetarily. You have Horrigan, who's going to be running for mayor. You have Lane Cariotti running for at large. You have Sean McDonald running for large. Isabel Rosa, Area 1. Myself in Area 2. Area 3 is Mike.
Yeah,
I don't know why. And I know him well enough. I'm sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to blow that up. And then you have Mike Carabet in Area 4. These are people, they're all homeowners too. So they know basically what the emphasis is going to be put onto the city and the taxpayers again. And we need a change? No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. And do you think that these people are not going to do the same thing if they got elected? Absolutely. But again, please take that time. And like I said, your choice from my voice. And I am, again, along with the rest of the people in the Republican Town Committee, as well as the Board of Education, are going to put an emphasis on it. And hopefully, again, we can sit back and say, we did something for Meriden, and we're proud of it.
Well, Dan, I thank you for coming in. As always, it's always a pleasure. I enjoy talking with you.
Thank you.
Again, you are the most engaging person in the city as far as the constituent-wise. So I thank you. Keep up the hard work. I'm hoping this is your year. I look forward to coming to your inauguration, hopefully. Keep hitting the pavement, and we'll see how that turns out.
I was in the Army. I was in the Air Force, but I've got their motto: boots on the ground. I will be at your house.
Well, be prepared if you live in Area 2. That Dan will be stopping by.
Thank you again, Joe, for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
It's always my pleasure. So again, that's Dan Zabrowski for Area 2 on the City Council. Switched it back over to me. Yeah, listen, I'm in agreement with 90% of what you just said. Obviously, he has to be for everybody. He is obviously a Republican. He's obviously endorsed by the Republicans and on the MRTC. So I get where you're coming from. To me, there's the Board of Ed I can't get behind at all. And I think that's been well documented here on the reasons why. Same thing with Carabetta. It's for me, it's no incumbent. I don't know a single incumbent who I could sit there and say vote for, because I think they've done a horrible job. I think the Board of Ed is the most corrupt organization in the city, and I think it's from top down. I think it's just absolutely disgusting what they have done over the years.
I just had a brain fart. It's Mike Zacharowski.
My
apologies, Mike.
That's all right. I've been trying to practice it for months, and I still can't get it. And you're right, and you're Polish. But again, so to me, this is the man. I think he's put in his due. Like I say, next week we'll have his opponent on. We look forward to seeing what he has to say, and You guys can compare notes on what you believe. But until then, guys, we'll be here again next Sunday. And like I said, my guest will be the Democrat candidate for City Council Area 2, Joe, I don't want to, Scaramuza. And I'm gonna apologize already for it because
Scaramuza, yes.
Scaramuza. So he will be here next week. We've had dialogue throughout the week, so we'll hear what he has to say and see where he stands on things. But until then, guys, as always, it's always a pleasure being here with you guys. I thank you all for joining us. I love each and every one of you. So until next week, I will see you. So God bless you, and obviously God bless this amazing country of ours. Until then, I will see you guys all. And Dan, we're going to end with your song that you liked last week. We ended with this song last week. We did end it with this song last week, right? Or do you want to end with Glenn?
With Lee Greenwood.
Yeah, which one?
God bless the USA.
God bless you. Okay, that's the one we're gonna sign off for tonight, guys. Until next week, love you. God bless you. God bless this amazing country of ours, and I will see you guys all next week.
If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. Thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt